Ladies and gentlemen, the Atlantic and Caribbean are entering a dangerous turning point. As May begins and hurricane season creeps closer, the atmosphere is showing alarming signals that could set the stage for a volatile and unpredictable month across the tropics. Forecast models are flashing warning signs of extreme contrasts: widespread drought in some regions, explosive rainfall in others, and ocean temperatures already hot enough to fuel early tropical development. The weather pattern unfolding now is not calm. It is unstable, imbalanced, and increasingly concerning. Meteorologists are warning that much of the Caribbean could face unusually dry conditions through May. Nations including Honduras, Nicaragua, Jamaica, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic are expected to receive far less rainfall than normal. Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, and several islands across the eastern Caribbean are also entering a potentially dangerous dry spell. Water supplies may begin tightening rapidly, especially in communities heavily dependent on rainwater collection. Vegetation is drying out earlier than expected, increasing the threat of brush fires and fast-moving wildfires in vulnerable areas. But the real danger lies in the illusion of dryness. Even while rainfall totals remain below average, the atmosphere is still capable of unleashing sudden tropical downpours, powerful enough to trigger flash flooding within hours. In the Caribbean, one violent thunderstorm can dump an entire month's worth of rain in a single afternoon. Urban areas, mountain valleys, and low-lying coastal communities remain at serious risk. Recent weeks have already shown how dangerous this setup can become, with localized flooding striking despite an overall dry trend. This weather pattern is becoming increasingly erratic, long stretches of heat and dryness interrupted by explosive bursts of torrential rain. Meanwhile, other regions are preparing for the exact opposite problem. The southwestern Caribbean, including Costa Rica and Panama, is expected to experience significantly wetter conditions with repeated rounds of tropical moisture capable of producing flooding rains and landslides. Parts of the southern and eastern United States are also entering a highly active rainfall pattern as storm systems pull deep Gulf moisture northward. States from Texas to Florida could face repeated heavy rain events, dangerous thunderstorms, and major flooding concerns throughout the month. Another growing threat now spreading across the Atlantic is the return of Saharan dust. Massive plumes of dry, dusty air are beginning to surge westward from Africa, earlier than usual this year. These enormous clouds of dust can choke the Caribbean skies, reduce air quality, limit visibility, and create hazardous breathing conditions for millions of people. Health experts warn that individuals with asthma or respiratory illnesses may face worsening symptoms as dust concentrations increase. The dust also suppresses some storm activity temporarily by injecting dry air into the atmosphere. But while Saharan dust attempts to shut storms down, the oceans are doing the exact opposite. Sea surface temperatures across the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico are running dangerously warm for this time of year. In many areas, water temperatures have already climbed into the range typically needed to support tropical storm formation and rapid intensification. These unusually warm waters act like fuel waiting for a spark, and that is where meteorologists are becoming increasingly concerned, because if even a small disturbance manages to break through the dry air and Saharan dust, conditions may allow storms to strengthen far earlier than normal. Historically, May is not known for major hurricanes, but this year is not behaving normally. Forecasters are refusing to rule out the possibility of early tropical systems forming before the official start of hurricane season on June 1st. Even weak tropical disturbances could still unleash damaging winds, dangerous surf, torrential rainfall, and flash flooding across parts of the Caribbean and Gulf Coast. At the same time, another environmental crisis is quietly expanding beneath the surface. Massive blooms of sargassum seaweed. Fueled by warm waters and atmospheric changes, thick mats of seaweed are spreading across the Caribbean at increasing levels. Beaches in several island nations could soon become overwhelmed by foul-smelling piles of rotting seaweed, threatening tourism, marine ecosystems, and coastal economies, just as the busy travel season begins. And the short-term forecast is already becoming active. An old frontal boundary lingering across the Caribbean is expected to trigger scattered but intense thunderstorms across Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Jamaica over the coming days. Flash flooding is possible wherever storms repeatedly develop. Central America, especially Costa Rica and Panama, may experience torrential rainfall capable of overflowing rivers and flooding vulnerable communities. In the United States, a powerful surge of Gulf moisture is colliding with an advancing cold front, setting the stage for potentially dangerous rainfall across Texas, Louisiana, and Florida. Some areas could receive excessive rainfall totals in only a few hours, dramatically increasing the risk of urban flooding and rapidly rising waters. As this storm system moves eastward, the Bahamas could also see worsening conditions by the weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, the pattern developing for May is not a normal seasonal transition. It is a collision of dangerous extremes: drought and flooding, dust and tropical moisture, suppression and intensification. The atmosphere is becoming increasingly unstable, and the potential for sudden high-impact weather events is rising across the Atlantic basin. The message from meteorologists is becoming clearer. This hurricane season may begin with far more energy than usual. Now is the time to prepare, stay alert, and closely monitor forecasts. Conditions can shift rapidly, and storms can strengthen with very little warning when oceans are this warm. The weeks ahead could mark the beginning of a highly active and potentially dangerous tropical season. We will continue tracking every major development as the Caribbean, Gulf Coast, and Atlantic move closer to what could become a turbulent start to hurricane season. Stay safe, stay informed, and remain prepared as the atmosphere grows increasingly volatile.